If you've watched the first two parts on cleaning this old engine aluminum on these Mercedes, you probably noticed I got quite a few comments. In fact, I was impressed. I got some really good concoctions. People said, well, try this or try that. And so I made a list. And today I brought a bunch of stuff out here and went to town on my valve cover. I also brought out another old manifold here because I needed a bunch of spots I could try a few of these different chemicals. But we're going to focus in this part, part 3, on those recommendations from things that you could find in your kitchen or in your garage. Okay, we're not going to talk about any harsh acids or chemicals, and we're not going to talk about media blasting. I know that media blasting can do wonders, but we're trying to figure out how to do this on the car. Okay, so that eliminates glass bead blasting, soda blasting. Might be able to do some dry ice, blasting. But for right now, I just want to report back what I found on the recommendations of a number of things that people said they've had success using. And I want to start out by talking about good old Bon-Ami. Now, Bon-Ami is a real favorite product of mine when detailing old cars, but it doesn't work on porous aluminum. Now, you got to remember, I'm sure some of you have had success with some of these products because you're working with smooth aluminum, like on some of the newer valve covers, like the valve covers on the 616 or 617 diesel. That's quite smooth compared to the cast parts on these older models back in the 60s and early 70s. So what you may find works on those is not working on these. I mean, I can scrub until the cows come home at night with the Bon-Ami and nothing's happening. The other one that's a real favorite of mine is Purple Power. Particularly detailing interiors, carpets, and vinyl. I've had great success with diluted Purple Power, but Purple Power didn't do it. I mean, it cleans the grime off, but once again, you get the grime off here. You can see these areas I've started working on. Well, once you got the grime off, then you've got the corrosion that's down in those pits. And that's what has become the most difficult thing to deal with. You know, I can get some of this cleaned up quite quickly, but then I'm looking at the corrosion in the pores of the aluminum. So let's start out by talking about what I'm using, what I found works. The first thing is these purple Scotch-Brite pads. Okay, I've tried steel wool and I've tried Scotch-Brite pads of this variety, and this to me works better than steel wool. So plan to get a bunch of Scotch-Brite pads, and you notice here I've cut them up into small squares because you're going to be going through a lot of Scotch-Brite pads. You'll also want to have a roll of blue paper shop towels because you're going to be doing a lot of wiping. But I tried, the other ones I tried, by the way, is baking soda and white vinegar. Now, I'm sure if I got a great big tub and I soaked the valve cover in vinegar, white vinegar, for a couple days, I probably might see some results. But once again, we're doing this on the car, and we've got, paint around and rubber parts and other things that we have to be concerned about. So I tried to mix up a concoction here of white vinegar and baking soda, and I'm putting it on here, and you can see it foam up a little bit. But, I let it sit here a little bit, and then I scrub away on it and wipe it off, and no, that's not cutting it either. So we said no on the baking soda and white vinegar, no on the Bon-Ami, no on the Purple Power. Here's my concoction of Bon-Ami and engine cleaner. I was trying to get really creative, okay? That didn't work either. But I did have some limited success. Oh, I tried hydrogen peroxide and whitening toothpaste, okay? Now, maybe if I soaked it for a month, it might help, but it certainly didn't get the results that I wanted. But I have here 3 things out of all the list of what I would call common household or garage cleaners or chemicals. These 3 right here. This is oven cleaner. This is mag wheel cleaner. And believe it or not, this is Marvel Mystery Oil. Now this is a real mystery to me why Marvel Mystery Oil actually works pretty well. And I'll show you that in just a minute. So one thing I found though, no matter what area we're tackling, it's much better to clean it before you start applying. Like, you don't want to spray this oven cleaner on over a greasy old manifold. It's better to get it cleaned off and get it down to bare aluminum, fairly clean aluminum, get the pores cleaned out. And that's where the old carb cleaner comes in. I spray a few areas with carb cleaner, wipe them off, and then I'll go after it with these three. So I'm going to show you, I'll take some examples here and I'll show you each one, and I'll show you what success I've had with these three right here. I'm gonna take this area from here to here, and we'll apply those three products that I mentioned. I'm just going to take and just clean this off a little bit with the carb cleaner. Once I get this wiped down, you can see the level of corrosion and discoloration. You can also see the amount of dirt that is embedded into this cast aluminum. Okay. All right, that's clean enough. So I'm going to start out over here. I've got a fume-free oven max oven cleaner, okay? And I'm going to spray this oven cleaner. One of the nice things about the oven cleaner is it foams on. And no matter what product that I've used today, you need to keep it wet for a while and let it soak. So the foaming oven cleaner at least stays on the area for a while. And I'm just going to let this sit for a few minutes while I apply the second one. And this is the Meguiar's mag wheel cleaner. And I'll actually use my hand here to get this to soak in and see if I can get it to sit on there for a little bit. I'll come back and we'll wet this down. Okay, so now number 3 is good old Marvel Mystery Oil. This must be an antique can. I've had this around for years. What I'm going to do with the Marvel Mystery Oil is just apply a little bit with a rag. And let that soak for a while. Okay, so those are the 3 areas. Now what I'm going to do is turn the camera off, and I'm going to let these sit for about 5 to 10 minutes. I'll keep them wet, each of these 3 areas, and then I'm going to come back and we'll go after these with the Scotch-Brite pads. Okay, let's start with the oven cleaner over here. New Scotch-Brite pad. I'm going to go after this. You can see how this is kind of foamed up a little bit. You can almost see it's like almost like a little acid cutting into that aluminum. Now I know there's some really wicked oven cleaners out there, and I'm not using that because I said at the beginning of this video I wanted to use at least reasonably safe chemicals here for this part 3 to see if anything will work before we go after it with some what I call nasty stuff. But this is the fume-free oven cleaner, and you know, some of that oven cleaner, you wouldn't even want to do this in the shop. You'd want to be outside. All right, let's take a look. Look at that. Look at the amount of aluminum that pulled out of there. Okay. So there's our oven cleaner. Now let's try. I'll use a new pad. We'll go after this area where I used mag cleaner. It's becoming obvious to me, no matter what chemical we use, good old elbow grease is going to be required. Now I have some other chemicals coming which we will show and demonstrate in part 4. Okay, it's starting to, now I'm pushing pretty hard now. Once again, I got the problem here. Even over here, you can see some of the pit areas, but this did pretty well. I'm quite pleased with that. You have to kind of decide how much you want in terms of perfection. Glass bead blasting may be the answer if you want it to be show quality. Okay, now let's wipe this area off that had the mag wheel cleaner. Now that's close, okay? I think, but if you look closely, you can see these, see the spots in the pits in this cast area here. The oven cleaner actually did a better job of getting into those pores in the aluminum. All right, now let's go over here. This area is the area with the Marvel Mystery Oil, and this is what I found very interesting. Is I thought, how is Marvel Mystery Oil actually going to cut into the aluminum? Now notice I start off, and it doesn't look that good, okay? But the more I scrub, you'll begin to see how this starts to pull some of the fine particles right out of the aluminum. And as I scrub more, this actually will start to turn a dark color. Now the Marvel Mystery Oil obviously is giving us some really good lubrication here. And it's certainly going to protect the pores to keep corrosion from coming back. At least it'll retard it. Now I had some success earlier with the Marvel Mystery Oil, but it took about twice as much rubbing as it did with either of these first two products. So let's wipe this off. See how this has turned dark gray? Isn't that amazing? How that Marvel Mystery Oil is actually pulled the surface off the aluminum. You're seeing aluminum particles mixed with the oil here. So, all right, let's wipe that off. Okay, so there you have it. Now this did a pretty good job of cleaning, but notice it did not get into the pores of the cast aluminum on this valve cover. So at this point, in my humble estimation, I think that oven cleaner so far today has been the winner, hands down, for the amount of effort that's required and the finished look. Once again, I'm not after something that's real shiny here. This may be a little bit more shiny. Obviously, the Marvel Mystery Oil is the dullest of the three, but it also did not clean out the pores to my satisfaction. Okay, I know what some of you are thinking, but man, I got to try everything. I don't want to do all this scrubbing. Somebody told me that bananas work good. The potassium in here can really attack this aluminum. I read that on the internet, by the way, that bananas really work. Okay. All right, let's see. Check out this banana. I don't think you want to believe everything you read on the internet. Okay. It doesn't look like bananas work very well. All kidding aside. Okay. I think I've got some limited success here, but it's going to take some elbow grease, okay, even using oven cleaner. We're gonna do another experiment tonight. We're gonna lay this up on its side, and we're just gonna spray this whole side with oven cleaner and let it sit overnight and see what that does. But I wish I had a product that I could just put on, kind of foam on, and then just rinse it off, and everything would be beautiful, just like glass bead blasting. And I actually have a couple products coming that are supposed to do that, okay? They're rather expensive. They're specialty aluminum cleaners. I have 3 of them coming. I think I spent over $200 for 3 of these. So they better work, okay? And when we get back in part 4, we'll talk about some of these specialized aluminum cleaners and see if we can have any better success at doing these parts on the car. So once again, I know you people out there saying, hey, you know, blasting, media blasting is the only way to go. I realize that, but you know, some of these manifolds, it's a lot of work to take them off the car and take all the pieces off them so you can get the media blast. So we're going to go the full route as far as we can to see if we can't do this with some product with the part on the car and not damaging the paint and the plastics and the wiring around it. So stay tuned for part 4. When we get these expensive products in here, we're going to show you if they work or not, okay?